"You've annoyed everyone long enough," our son-in-law yelled, shoving my wife hard against the counter. Our daughter stood there giggling. "Now you'll shut up and listen to me." They were sure the old man would stay quiet and take it, but I calmly took off my watch, set it on the table, and did the one thing they never expected. 1 hour later, police lights flashing through every window. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. My name is Gerald Harrison. I'm 67 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon with my wife Linda. We've been married for 42 years, and I can honestly say she's the best thing that ever happened to me. We met at a college library in 1983. I was there pretending to study economics. She was actually studying to become a teacher. I dropped my calculator. She picked it up, and when our hands touched, I knew I was done for. She had this smile that could light up the entire room. Still does. I spent 38 years working at First National Bank, the last 15 as head of the asset management division. Numbers, patterns, financial structures, that was my world. Linda taught second grade for 33 years. She always said I understood money, but she understood people. She was right. Together we made a pretty good team. Now we're both retired, me for 2 years, her for 4. I spend my time restoring antique pocket watches in my garage workshop, and Linda has this incredible garden in our backyard. 12 different varieties of roses, vegetables, herbs. Our house on Cedar Grove Avenue isn't fancy, but it's ours. We bought it in 1987 for $124,000 and spent 30 years paying off the mortgage. We have one daughter, Brittany, our only child. For 28 years, she was the light of our lives. Smart, funny, ambitious. Then 6 years ago, she married Derek Thornton. I remember the wedding. Linda whispered to me during the ceremony. Something's off about him. I should have listened. Linda has this uncanny ability to read people. 33 years of teaching children will do that. She notices things I miss. The way someone's voice changes when they lie, how their eyes shift when they're hiding something. Derek seemed fine at first. Confident, successful. He worked in commercial equipment sales, made decent money, around $65,000 a year, but Linda noticed the cracks early. "He talks over Brittany," she'd say. "Watch how he corrects her in front of people." I saw it too eventually, the subtle put-downs disguised as jokes, the way he'd make decisions without consulting her. 2 months after the wedding, they asked if they could stay with us temporarily while they saved for a house. "Just a few months, Dad," Brittany said. 6 at most. That was 6 years ago. At first, it wasn't terrible. They had their own routines, we had ours. But gradually, and Linda noticed this before I did, things shifted. Derek started treating our home like his own, not in a good way, more like we were the guests. He'd rearrange furniture without asking, change the thermostat settings, leave his stuff everywhere. When I'd mention it, he'd laugh it off. "Relax, Jerry. We're family." I hate being called Jerry. Brittany changed too. She became quieter around Derek, louder around us, especially around Linda. The daughter who used to call her mother her best friend started snapping at her over small things. "Mom, stop hovering." "Mom, I don't need your advice." Derek would smirk when this happened. Linda tried to talk to me about it multiple times. "They're planning something," she'd say. I see them whispering, stopping conversations when we enter rooms. I told her she was being paranoid. I was wrong. The breaking point came on a Wednesday evening, April 23rd. Just another ordinary dinner that turned into something else entirely. Linda had made steak, mashed potatoes, and roasted vegetables. Derek asked for his steak medium rare. She made it exactly how he requested. I watched her check it with the thermometer. 145 degrees. Perfect medium rare. We sat down to eat. Derek cut into his steak, chewed once, and slammed his fork down. "This is overcooked. I specifically said medium rare." Linda looked confused. "Derek, I checked the temperature. It's exactly—" "Don't argue with me." His voice was sharp, aggressive. "You always do this. You never listen." I felt my jaw tighten. "Derek, watch your tone." He turned to me with this condescending smile. "Stay out of this, Gerald. This is between me and Linda." Brittany sat there saying nothing, not defending her mother, just watching. Linda stood up, trying to defuse the situation. "I can make you another one if—" "You already wasted one steak," Derek shouted. "You're so incompetent. Always butting in with your opinions and advice. You've annoyed everyone in this house for years." That's when Linda's face changed. I saw it. The hurt, the shock. My hands clenched under the table. "Derek," I said quietly, "apologize to my wife." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Or what, old man? This is the problem with you two. Always so sensitive. Can't take any criticism." Brittany finally spoke. "Mom, he's right. You are too controlling. Always have been." Linda stood frozen, holding an empty plate, and that's when Derek did it. He stood up, gestured angrily, and his hand connected with Linda's shoulder. Hard. She stumbled backward, catching herself on the counter. The plate shattered on the floor. For a moment, everything stopped. Linda looked at me. I saw fear in her eyes, but also something else. Determination. Brittany didn't gasp, didn't rush to help her mother. She giggled. Actually giggled. "Now you'll be quiet and listen to me," our daughter said to her mother, like Linda was a disobedient child. Something inside me clicked. Not anger. That would come later. This was colder, clearer. I stood up slowly, walked to the dining room hutch, reached into the drawer and pulled out my father's pocket watch, the one he gave me in 1952 when I graduated high school, the one I'd been restoring for 3 years. I set it carefully on the table. "What are you doing?" Derek asked, his voice uncertain for the first time. I pulled out my phone. "Calling the police. Right now. You just assaulted my wife." His face went pale, then red. "Are you insane? It was an accident. She's exaggerating." I was already dialing 911. "Hello, yes. I need to report a domestic assault. My son-in-law just physically attacked my wife in our home." Brittany jumped up. "Dad, no! You can't. He didn't mean—" "He pushed her. I saw it. She has a witness." I kept my voice calm, cold. "Address is 3847 Cedar Grove Avenue." Derek started yelling about how I was ruining everything, how we were ungrateful, how they'd throw us out of our own house. Empty threats from a man who suddenly realized he'd miscalculated. Linda stood by the sink, holding her wrist where she'd caught herself. She wasn't crying. She was watching me with something like pride in her eyes. The 911 operator said officers were on their way. 15 minutes. For the next hour, we all sat in the living room in complete silence. Derek kept looking at the door like he wanted to run. Brittany stared at her phone, typing frantically. Linda sat beside me on the couch, our hands clasped together. I glanced at my father's watch on the table. Time was up, for all of us.
I always knew Derek was dangerous. Not obviously so. Not in the way that makes people keep their distance. He was dangerous in the quiet way. The way that makes you doubt yourself. When Gerald called 911, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not because I wanted our daughter in trouble, but because finally someone was taking action. My husband, my steady, analytical Gerald, had drawn a line. The hour we waited for the police felt like days. I sat on our worn leather couch, the one we'd bought when Brittany was 3, and I held Gerald's hand. His fingers were steady, warm. I could feel his wedding ring pressing against my palm. Derek paced like a caged animal. Brittany kept texting, probably calling a lawyer already. I watched her, really looked at her, and tried to find my little girl, the one who used to pick flowers from my garden and make me crowns, the one who cried when she accidentally stepped on a beetle. She was gone, or buried so deep I couldn't see her anymore. "You're being ridiculous," Brittany finally said, breaking the silence. "He barely touched you." I looked at the bruise already forming on my wrist, dark purple, spreading. "He pushed me hard enough that I dropped a plate." "You're clumsy," she shot back. "Always have been." Gerald's hand tightened around mine. I squeezed back, a silent message. Not yet. Let her talk. Let them both show who they really are. The thing about being a teacher for 33 years is that you learn to read between the lines. Children lie, but their bodies tell the truth. Brittany was scared, terrified, actually, but not for me, for herself. The police arrived at 7:47 p.m. 2 officers, 1 male and 1 female. Officer Jason Wright and Officer Laura Kimball. They separated us, asked questions. I showed them my wrist, explained what happened. The bruise was visible, undeniable. Derek tried his charm offensive. Officers, this is just a family disagreement. My mother-in-law is exaggerating. She's getting older. You know how it is. Sir, Officer Kimball cut him off, her voice professional but cold. Let Mrs. Harrison finish her statement. I told them everything, not just about tonight, but about the past 6 months, the escalating verbal abuse, the financial irregularities I'd noticed, mail from lawyers that Derek would quickly hide, the conversations that stopped when Gerald or I entered a room. Gerald was precise, factual. I witnessed the assault. He pushed her with enough force that she had to catch herself on the counter to avoid falling. The plate broke from the impact. Officer Wright took notes. Officer Kimball looked at Derek and Brittany with the expression I'd seen on parents' faces during teacher conferences, disappointment mixed with recognition. She'd seen this before. Mrs. Harrison, Officer Kimball said gently, I'd recommend you see a doctor tomorrow to document your injuries. Here's information for victim services. She handed me a card. And sir, she turned to Derek, we're filing a report. Any further incidents, and you'll be facing charges. After they left, Derek exploded. You destroyed this family. Over nothing. You always do this. You manipulate everyone. Brittany was crying now, but her words cut deeper than Derek's anger. I can't believe you called the police on us. Your own daughter. You never loved me. I stood up, and I felt Gerald stand with me. We were a unit. Always had been. Brittany, I said quietly, I loved you from the moment I first felt you kick inside me. I loved you through every scraped knee, every nightmare, every heartbreak. But love doesn't mean I let you and Derek abuse us in our own home. We're not, she started. You laughed. Gerald interrupted, his voice hard. Your husband pushed your mother, and you laughed. For just a second, I saw my daughter again. Real confusion flickered across her face, like she'd woken up from a dream and didn't recognize where she was. Then Derek grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the stairs. Come on, we don't need to listen to this. We listened to them storm up to their room. The door slammed. Gerald and I stood in the quiet wreckage of our dining room. Our bedroom? I said softly. We need to talk. We climbed the stairs to our room, locked the door, and sat on the edge of our bed. The same bed we'd shared for 42 years. The same bed where we'd whispered dreams and fears and plans. Gerald pulled out his phone and showed me something. I started documenting things 3 weeks ago, after you mentioned the lawyer's letters. Photos, screenshots, dates and times of conversations. My meticulous husband had been building a case. I noticed something else, I said. 2 months ago, Brittany mentioned this wonderful retirement community outside Portland, said we should look into it for the future. She brought it up 3 times. Gerald's face went still. They're not just trying to live here rent-free. No, I agreed. They want us gone. We sat in silence for a moment. I thought about the girl I raised, the woman she'd become, the man she married who was slowly destroying her and trying to destroy us. We can't just let this happen, I said. Gerald looked at me, and I saw the man I fell in love with 42 years ago, the one who always stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. No, he said, we can't. I thought about my years volunteering at the women's shelter, all the stories I'd heard, all the patterns I'd learned to recognize: financial abuse, isolation, gaslighting. Derek was running a textbook campaign, and Brittany was either his willing accomplice or his victim, maybe both. I have a friend, I said slowly. Victoria Blake, from college. She's a family lawyer now, specializes in elder financial abuse. Gerald raised his eyebrows. You think that's what this is? I think, I said carefully, that we need to protect ourselves. Legally, financially, emotionally. And I think we need to be very, very careful. He nodded, reached for my hand again. We play the long game. Exactly, I said. They think we're just two helpless old people. Let them think that. While we what? I smiled, but it wasn't warm. While we remind them that being older doesn't mean being weak, it means being smarter, more experienced, more connected. Gerald smiled back. I like the way you think, Mrs. Harrison. I learned from the best, Mr. Harrison. We sat there, holding hands, planning. Outside our window, I could see my garden in the moonlight. Those roses didn't bloom by accident. They took patience, care, strategy. You had to prune away the dead parts so the healthy parts could thrive. Sometimes love means cutting away what's toxic. I looked at Gerald, and I knew we were thinking the same thing. This was just the beginning. The real battle was ahead. But we'd fought battles before, and we'd always fought them together.
The silence that settled over our house after that night felt different, thicker somehow, like the air before a storm. I woke up the next morning and went downstairs to my workshop in the garage. My hands needed something to do while my mind worked. I picked up the 1887 Waltham pocket watch I'd been restoring. Delicate gears, intricate mechanisms, everything working in perfect synchronization. One wrong move and the whole thing stops. I understood that principle well. Through the garage window, I could see Derek's car in the driveway, a leased BMW 5 Series, payments around $750 a month on his salary. The math didn't add up. It never had. I'd been ignoring the numbers because he was family. That ended now. Linda came down with coffee around 8. She kissed my cheek and set the mug on my workbench, careful to avoid the watch parts. They're still sleeping, she said quietly. I heard them arguing late last night. Derek was angry about the police report. Good, I said, fitting a tiny gear back into place. Let him be angry. She leaned against the workbench. I've been thinking about what Victoria said, checking our financial documents. I set down my tools and looked at her. Linda had that expression she gets when she solved a puzzle, her teacher face. What did you notice? I asked. Remember 3 months ago when Derek asked you to sign some papers? He said it was for a refinancing offer on the house. I felt my stomach tighten. I didn't sign anything. I know, but he asked twice, and both times he had the paperwork ready, pre-filled. She pulled out her phone and showed me photos. I took pictures. The dates match up with when the bank tried to contact you about suspicious activity. Smart woman, my wife, always 2 steps ahead. We need to go to the bank, I said, today. I already made an appointment, 10 o'clock with William Davis. William had been my colleague for 22 years before he took over my position when I retired. Solid guy, detail-oriented. If there was something off in my accounts, he'd find it. We went back inside. Derek and Brittany were in the kitchen, and the temperature dropped about 20 degrees when we walked in. Derek wore his salesman's smile. All teeth, no warmth. Morning, Gerald, Linda. He poured himself coffee like nothing had happened. About last night, I think we all overreacted. Family stuff, you know? Gets heated sometimes. I watched him. Really watched him. The way his eyes didn't quite meet mine. How his hand trembled slightly when he lifted the mug. He was scared, trying to cover it with bravado. Assault isn't overreacting, Derek, I said calmly. It's criminal. His smile faltered. Come on, I barely touched her. Linda's fine, aren't you, Linda? Brittany jumped in. Dad, please, can't we just forget this happened, for my sake? There it was, the manipulation Linda had warned me about, using my love for my daughter as leverage. No, I said simply, we can't. The rest of breakfast was silent. I ate my eggs and toast, observing them like I used to observe difficult clients at the bank. Derek kept checking his phone, texts, probably to a lawyer. Brittany picked at her food, shooting wounded looks at her mother. Classic guilt trip attempt. Linda cleared the table without a word, then touched my shoulder. Ready? We left them sitting there and drove to First National Bank downtown, the building where I'd spent 38 years. Walking through those doors felt strange now. I was a visitor, not an employee. William met us in his office on the third floor. He stood when we entered, shook my hand warmly. "Gerald, good to see you." "Linda," he gestured to chairs. "When you called about reviewing your accounts, I did some preliminary checking. Found something concerning." He pulled up documents on his computer screen and turned it toward us. 3 months ago, someone attempted to file a power of attorney claim on your accounts. The signature looked off, so our fraud department flagged it. My blood went cold. "Who filed it?" "The documentation listed Derek Thornton as the authorized representative. Said you were experiencing memory issues and needed assistance managing your finances." Linda's hand found mine. We'd suspected, but hearing it confirmed was different. "Memory issues?" I said, anger rising. "I'm 67, not senile." Exactly what our team thought. The signature didn't match our records. We blocked it, sent a notice to your home address. William frowned. "You never received it?" "No." I thought about all the mail Derek intercepted, how he was always first to the mailbox. William pulled out a file folder, thick with papers. "I pulled everything this morning. Want to see something else interesting?" He spread out bank statements. "Your account shows regular wire transfers, $2,000 every month for the past 6 months, to an LLC called Thornton Ventures." I stared at the numbers. $12,000. Gone. "I never authorized those transfers," I said. "I know. That's fraud." William leaned back. "Gerald, I need to ask, do you want to press charges? Because with the power of attorney attempt and these unauthorized transfers, we're looking at serious financial crimes." I looked at Linda. She nodded once. "Decision made." "Not yet," I said, "but I want everything documented. Every attempt, every transfer, every document. Can you do that?" "Already started. I'll have a complete report ready by tomorrow." William's expression was grim. "Gerald, they were trying to drain your accounts systematically. If we hadn't caught it." "I know." I stood up, shook his hand. "Thank you, William, for watching out for me. That's what friends do." We drove home in silence. Linda held my hand across the center console. When we pulled into our driveway, I just sat there for a moment. $12,000, I said quietly. Our daughter helped steal from us. "We don't know that for sure. It could be just Derek." "Linda," I turned to her, "you saw the papers? Brittany's name is on that LLC. She knew." I saw pain flash across her face. Our daughter, our little girl who we'd sacrificed so much for, who we'd sent to college, supported through her struggles, welcomed into our home with her husband. "What do we do?" Linda asked. I thought about the pocket watch on my workbench, all those intricate pieces working together. You had to understand the whole mechanism before you could fix what was broken. "We build a case," I said. "Document everything. Talk to professionals. And we do it quietly. Let them think we're just two scared old people who backed down after calling the police." Linda smiled. Not her warm mother smile. Something sharper. "While we prepare?" "Exactly." I squeezed her hand. "They want to play games with our money, our home, our lives? Fine. But they're playing against someone who spent 4 decades in financial management, and someone who can read people like books." "A dangerous combination," Linda said. "The most dangerous." I looked at our house, the one we'd built our life in. "They think we're weak because we're older. That's their first mistake." "What's their second mistake?" Linda asked. I smiled. "Underestimating what parents will do to protect what's theirs." We got out of the car and walked back into our house. Derek looked up from the couch where he was watching TV. His eyes tracked us, calculating, worried. I smiled at him. Friendly. Harmless old Gerald. "Everything okay?" he asked carefully. "Just fine," I said. "Just some banking business. You know how it is." He relaxed slightly. Thought he'd gotten away with it. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, Linda beside me. We closed the door. "Phase 1, I said. "Gather evidence?" Linda pulled out her phone. "I have Victoria's number, and I know exactly what to tell her."
The morning after we went to the bank, I called Victoria Blake. We'd known each other since college, both of us young, ambitious, planning to change the world. She became a lawyer specializing in family law and elder rights. I became a teacher. Different paths, same values. Protect those who can't protect themselves. "Linda?" Victoria's voice was warm but professional when she answered. Good to hear from you. Your message said it was urgent? It is. Can we meet? Today, if possible? She heard something in my voice. Riverside Beans? 2:00? Perfect. I spent the morning in my garden, my hands in the soil, thinking. My roses needed pruning, cutting away dead branches so new growth could flourish. Sometimes you had to remove what was toxic to save what mattered. Gerald was in his workshop, documenting everything on his computer. We'd divided responsibilities naturally, the way we always did. He handled the financial evidence. I would handle the legal framework. At 1:30, I drove to Riverside Beans, a small cafe near the waterfront. Victoria was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cappuccinos waiting. She stood when she saw me, hugged me tight. You look tired. I am. I sat down, wrapped my hands around the warm cup. Victoria, I need your professional advice about Brittany and Derek. I told her everything. The escalating verbal abuse, the physical assault, Derek's attempt to get power of attorney, the unauthorized wire transfers. Victoria listened without interrupting, taking notes on her tablet. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me with an expression I'd seen before, on the faces of parents whose children had disappointed them beyond measure. Linda, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse. Oregon takes this seriously, very seriously. What does that mean legally? It means Derek, and potentially Brittany if she's complicit, could face criminal charges. Financial exploitation of an elderly person is a Class C felony in Oregon. Up to 5 years in prison, fines up to $125,000. She pulled up something on her tablet. You and Gerald are both over 65. That gives you additional legal protections. The number stunned me. Not the money, the prison time. My daughter could go to jail. Victoria must have seen my face. Linda, I know this is hard. But they tried to steal your home, your savings, potentially your independence. That's not just wrong. It's criminal. I know. My voice sounded small. She's my daughter. She's also an adult making her own choices, and those choices have consequences. Victoria reached across the table, squeezed my hand. You don't have to decide about criminal charges right now. First, we protect you and Gerald. Then we decide what justice looks like. How do we protect ourselves? She opened her briefcase and pulled out several documents. Step 1. Create a living trust. Transfer your house and major assets into it. You and Gerald remain the trustees. You keep complete control. But it prevents anyone from trying to claim the property through inheritance or manipulation. Can we change the beneficiary after we're gone? Absolutely. You can specify anyone you want, or a charity, or make it conditional. Brittany only inherits if certain terms are met. Victoria started writing notes. Step 2. Document everything. Every conversation, every threat, every suspicious financial activity. Oregon is a one-party consent state for recording, which means if you're part of the conversation, you can legally record it without telling the other person. I thought about the whispered arguments I'd overheard, the threatening text messages Brittany had sent. I can do that, I said. Step 3. Security cameras, inside and outside your home. They can't claim you're lying about abuse if there's video evidence. Won't they notice cameras? Victoria smiled. There are very small ones now. Hidden in smoke detectors, clocks, even picture frames. Perfectly legal in your own home. We spent the next hour going over details. Victoria explained Oregon's guests at will law. Because Derek and Brittany didn't pay rent and had no written lease, we could ask them to leave with 30 days' notice. If they refused, we could go to court for eviction. How long would eviction take? I asked. With good documentation and no lease, maybe 6 weeks from filing to court order. But Linda, that's the legal nuclear option. It will destroy your relationship with Brittany. I think Derek already destroyed that relationship, I said quietly. I'm just accepting reality. Victoria packed up her documents. I'll draft the trust paperwork. Can you and Gerald come to my office tomorrow? We'll need both of your signatures, plus a notary. What time? How's 10 o'clock? We'll be there. I drove home as the sun started setting. Our house looked peaceful in the golden light, the roses blooming, the porch swing swaying gently. A perfect picture of a happy home. Lies. All of it lies. Gerald was waiting for me on the porch with a glass of iced tea. I sat beside him, took the glass, and told him everything Victoria had said. Living trust, he repeated. That's smart. Removes their primary target. She also mentioned recording devices and security cameras. Gerald nodded slowly. I can install those. Small ones, hidden. They won't even know. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the street. Mrs. Patterson walked by with her dog, waved. We waved back. Normal neighbours doing normal things. This feels wrong, I said quietly. Setting traps for our own daughter. It's not a trap if we're just protecting ourselves. Gerald put his arm around me. But I know what you mean. I keep thinking about when she was little. Remember when she was 8 and wanted to be a veterinarian? She set up a hospital in the garage for stuffed animals. I smiled at the memory. Charged us 5 cents per visit. Entrepreneurial even then. His voice was sad. When did it change, Linda? When did our little girl become this? I thought about it. Really thought about the timeline. I think it started before Derek. Remember her last year of college? She got involved with that marketing pyramid scheme. Got angry when we warned her it was a scam. Lost $3,000 before she admitted we were right. She never really admitted it, I corrected. She just stopped talking about it, and she blamed us for not being supportive. I sighed. Derek didn't create this. He just amplified it. Gave her permission to act on impulses she already had. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know. We finished our tea as darkness fell. Inside, I could hear Derek and Brittany moving around, probably making dinner, using our kitchen, our food, our electricity, taking everything and giving nothing. Tomorrow we see Victoria, Gerald said. Sign the trust papers. Then what? Then we wait. Document, record, build our case. I looked at him. And we do it together. Every step. He kissed my forehead. Every step. The next morning, we dressed carefully for our meeting with Victoria. Professional. Serious. We told Derek and Brittany we were going to a doctor's appointment. They didn't even look up from their phones. Victoria's office was on the 12th floor of a building downtown. Modern, efficient, with a view of the Willamette River. She met us in the conference room with her paralegal and a notary. Gerald, Linda, this is Sarah Chen, our notary. She'll witness your signatures and make everything official. The documents were thick. Victoria walked us through each page. Trust formation, asset transfer, beneficiary designations. Gerald read every word with his banker's eye for detail. I watched his face, saw the moment he got to the beneficiary section. We can change this later? He asked. Anytime you want, Victoria confirmed. Just come back, sign an amendment, 5-minute process. Gerald looked at me. We'd talked about this last night, our decision. Primary beneficiary, Portland Children's Hospital, he said. Secondary, Laurelhurst Food Bank. Victoria didn't react, just made notes. But Sarah, the notary's eyes widened slightly. Not your daughter? She asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. Sorry, not my business. It's fine, I said. Our daughter is taking a different path right now. This way, our estate helps children who need it. We signed. Sarah notarized. Victoria made copies. One more thing, Victoria said as we were leaving. I have a colleague who specializes in financial crimes investigation. Former FBI. If you want, I can have him look at the unauthorized transfers, the power of attorney attempt. Not yet, Gerald said, but keep his number handy. We drove home with our copies of the trust documents. Our house, our savings, our life's work. Now protected. Brittany and Derek could scheme all they wanted. They'd already lost. How do you feel? I asked Gerald. Strange. Relieved, but strange. He pulled into our driveway. Like I just cut off a limb to save the body. That's exactly what we did. We walked inside. Brittany was in the living room, laptop open. She looked up when we entered. How was the doctor? She asked, not really caring. Fine, I said. Just routine tests. Good. She went back to her computer. I went upstairs to our bedroom. Gerald followed. We closed the door and looked at each other. 42 years of marriage had taught us to communicate without words. I saw the determination in his eyes, the cold anger he was keeping controlled, the love he still had for our daughter, buried under layers of hurt and betrayal. They have no idea, I said softly. None. He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. We look like harmless old people to them. Perfect camouflage. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app Victoria had recommended. Downloaded, installed, ready to use. Phase 2, I said. Gerald nodded. Let's show them what old age and experience really mean.
The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in patience and observation. Linda and I settled into a routine. Friendly, forgiving grandparents who decided to let bygones be bygones. Derek and Brittany bought it completely. See? Derek said one morning over breakfast, all smiles. I knew we could work this out like adults. I smiled back, stirring my coffee. Water under the bridge. What he didn't know was that Linda's phone was recording in her pocket. Legal in Oregon as long as one party, her, consented. She'd captured 3 conversations already where Derek and Brittany discussed their retirement home plan for us. Once we get them declared incompetent, Derek had said just 2 days ago, the house is basically ours. Brittany's response, my mom's already showing signs. She forgot where she put her keys yesterday. Linda had deliberately left her keys in an obvious spot on the counter, testing them. They took the bait. I spent my days in my workshop, ostensibly restoring pocket watches, but I was also installing security cameras. Tiny ones disguised as smoke detectors and picture frames. 10 cameras total, covering every room except the bathrooms. All cloud-connected, recording 24/7. The footage was enlightening. Derek going through our mail before we saw it. Brittany photographing documents from our filing cabinet when she thought we were asleep. Both of them practicing forged signatures, mine and Linda's, at the kitchen table. Amateurs. Dangerous, greedy amateurs. On the second week, I made a call. Gregory Mills, detective with Portland PD's Financial Crimes Unit. I'd worked with him 8 years back when the bank discovered a money laundering scheme running through our branch. I'd helped him untangle the financial web. He owed me one. Gerald Harrison, he said warmly when he answered. Haven't heard from you in years. How's retirement? Complicated. Got time for coffee? We met at a cafe downtown the next afternoon. I brought the bank documents showing the unauthorized transfers and the attempted power of attorney filing. Gregory studied them with the focused intensity I remembered. $12,000 over 6 months, he said quietly. And they tried to get full financial control? Blocked by the bank, thank goodness. But Gregory, I need to know. Is this enough for criminal charges? He leaned back, thinking. Elder financial abuse in Oregon is serious, but I'd need more than this. Paper trail's good, but I need evidence of intent, planning. Do you have anything else? I pulled out my phone, played him one of Linda's recordings. Derek's voice clear as day. Once we control their accounts, we can drain them slowly. They'll never notice until it's too late. Gregory's jaw tightened. That'll do it. Gerald, I need you to keep gathering evidence. Every recording, every document, every camera footage, showing them going through your files. Build me an airtight case. How long? Give me a month, maybe 6 weeks. I'll do some digging on my end. See if Derek's tried this before with anyone else. He paused. You and Linda staying safe at home? We're careful, and we have a lawyer. Good. Keep it that way. I drove home feeling lighter. The pieces were falling into place. We just needed to be patient a little longer. That weekend, Linda and I drove to Victoria's office again. She'd prepared the final trust documents. Our house, our savings accounts, everything transferred into the Harrison Family Living Trust. Managed by us, benefiting the Portland Children's Hospital after we were gone. "Brittany's going to lose her mind when she finds out," Victoria said as we signed. "That's the point," Linda replied quietly. On our way home, we stopped at the hardware store. I bought new locks for our bedroom door, the kind that can't be picked easily. Installed them that evening while Derek and Brittany were out running errands, probably meeting with whatever shady lawyer was helping them. Linda organized our important documents into a safe deposit box at the bank. Birth certificates, social security cards, the original deed to the house, everything they might try to steal or forge. We were building walls, brick by brick. 3 weeks after I met with Gregory, Linda came to my workshop holding her phone. "You need to hear this," she said. She played the recording. Brittany and Derek in the living room, thinking we were in the garden. "Derek, we need to speed this up. My boss is asking questions about those transfers." Brittany, "What kind of questions?" Derek, "The Thornton Ventures account. Apparently someone flagged it for review. We might need to shut it down, take what we've got, and disappear before they investigate." Brittany, "What about my parents?" Derek, "What about them? We'll be gone. Let them figure it out." I felt Linda's hand on my shoulder. We looked at each other, and I saw the same cold determination I felt. "They're planning to run," I said. "Not if we move first," she replied. I called Gregory that afternoon. "I've got something you need to hear." We met the next day. I handed him copies of everything: the recordings, the camera footage, screenshots of the wire transfers, photos of Derek practicing our signatures. Gregory spread it all out on his desk like a prosecutor preparing for trial. "This is solid, Gerald. Really solid." He looked up at me. "I'm going to open an official investigation. It'll take a few weeks to process everything, get warrants if needed. But this is enough. What should we do in the meantime? Act normal. Don't let them know you're onto them. And for the love of everything, don't confront them alone. When this goes down, I want it to be by the book." I drove home mind racing. We were so close. Just a few more weeks of pretending, of playing the helpless old couple. That night, Linda and I sat in our locked bedroom, reviewing our plan. "The trust is established," she said, checking items off a list. "Documents secured, evidence collected." Gregory's investigation started. "Next step?" I asked. "We wait for Gregory's signal. When he's ready to move, we move." She looked at me. "Are you ready for this? Once we start, there's no going back." I thought about Brittany, my little girl who used to sit on my lap and ask me to read her stories, who'd grown into someone I barely recognized. "I'm ready," I said. "This isn't about revenge. It's about justice and protecting ourselves. And maybe," Linda said softly, "protecting the next family Derek and Brittany might target." The next evening, Derek made a mistake. He came home excited, waving a piece of paper. "Great news," he announced. "I found a fantastic care facility for you two. Riverdale Senior Living. They have openings next month." Linda and I exchanged glances. "Here we go." "We don't need a care facility," I said calmly. "We're perfectly capable of living independently." "Dad, be realistic. You're both in your 60s. It's time to think about the future. This place has 24-hour nursing care, activities, everything you'd need." "And what happens to our house?" Linda asked innocently. Brittany jumped in. "We'd take care of it for you. Keep it in the family." I bet they would, right before selling it and pocketing the $487,000. "We'll think about it," I said, taking the brochure. Derek's smile faltered. "What's there to think about?" "It's a big decision. We need time to discuss it." After they went upstairs, Linda photographed the brochure and texted it to Victoria. Within an hour, Victoria replied, "That facility costs $8,500 per month. They'd drain your savings in 2 years, then sell the house to cover costs. Classic scheme." I showed Linda the text. She didn't look surprised, just sad. "How did we raise someone capable of this?" she asked quietly. I didn't have an answer. 2 days later, Gregory called. "I've got news. Derek Thornton has a history. 3 years ago, he was investigated for embezzlement at his previous employer. Case was dropped due to lack of evidence, but the pattern's there. And I found the notary who supposedly witnessed your power of attorney signature. He's already under investigation for document fraud. He's willing to testify that Derek paid him $2,000 to forge it. My heart raced. This is it, isn't it? Almost. I need one more week to finalize everything with the DA's office. Then we make our move. He paused. Gerald, when this happens, it's going to be intense. Your daughter might be charged as an accessory. Are you prepared for that? I looked across the room at Linda, tending her roses through the window. Strong, determined, heartbroken. We're prepared, I said.
The day Gregory called to say he was ready, I was in the garden. My hands were in the soil, pruning the dead branches from my peace roses, when Gerald came out to tell me. It's time, he said simply. I set down my pruning shears and looked at the roses. They were blooming beautifully now, all because I'd cut away what was killing them. When? I asked. Tomorrow. Gregory wants us at the station at 10. He's bringing Derek and Brittany in for questioning. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Brittany as a child, the way she'd helped me in this same garden, getting dirt under her fingernails, laughing as we planted seeds together. When had I lost her? Or had she always had this capacity for cruelty, just waiting for the right person to bring it out? The next morning, Gerald and I dressed carefully, professional, serious. We ate a quiet breakfast, while Derek and Brittany slept late upstairs, as usual. At 9:30, my phone rang. Gregory. Change of plans, he said. I'm coming to you, bringing 2 other detectives. We'll interview everyone there, then bring Derek and Brittany to the station. Wanted to give you a heads up. My stomach tightened. They're going to know we set this up. Yes. But Linda, this is the right thing. You know that. I know, I told Gerald. We sat on the couch in the living room, holding hands, waiting. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Gerald answered. Gregory stood there with 2 other detectives, a woman about my age with sharp eyes, and a younger man with a tablet. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, Gregory said formally. I'm Detective Mills with Portland PD Financial Crimes Unit. This is Detective Sarah Chen and Detective Marcus Reed. We have some questions about financial irregularities involving your accounts. His voice carried upstairs. I heard movement, footsteps. Derek appeared at the top of the stairs, Brittany behind him. Derek's face went from sleepy to alert in an instant. What's going on? He demanded. Mister. Derek Thornton? Gregory asked. We need you to come downtown to answer some questions regarding suspected financial crimes. I watched Derek's face, really watched it. The colour drained from his cheeks. His hand gripped the banister, knuckles white. His eyes darted to Brittany, then to us, then back to Gregory. Financial crimes? I haven't. This is ridiculous. Gerald? Linda? What is this? Gerald's voice was calm, cold. This is us protecting ourselves. Brittany came down the stairs, and I saw the exact moment she understood. Her face went pale, her mouth opening slightly. She looked at me with something like betrayal. Mom? You called the police on us? You tried to steal our house, Brittany, our savings. You wanted to put us in a facility and drain our accounts. My voice didn't shake. What did you think would happen? Detective Chen stepped forward. Ms. Harrison Thornton, we have evidence of wire fraud, attempted identity theft, and conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse. You'll need to come with us as well. No. Brittany's voice cracked. No, this is insane. Derek, tell them. But Derek was already calculating. I could see it in his eyes. Looking for exits, for explanations, for ways out. I want a lawyer, he said flatly. You'll have access to one at the station, Gregory replied. Please come with us voluntarily, or we can do this the hard way. Derek looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw hatred there, pure, undisguised hatred. You vindictive old witch, he snarled. You're destroying your own daughter's life. Gerald stood up. No, you destroyed it when you dragged her into your schemes. You tried to rob us, manipulate us, abuse us in our own home. You made your choices. These are the consequences. Detective Reed was reading Derek his rights. Brittany started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that once would have broken my heart. But I'd heard her practice those same sobs on the phone with friends, manipulating them for favors. "Mom, please," she begged. "Please don't do this. I'm your daughter." I looked at her, really looked at my baby girl. Somewhere under the manipulation and greed, was there still someone I could reach? "You're my daughter," I said quietly, "which is why this breaks my heart. But you crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. You weren't just stealing money, Brittany. You were trying to steal our dignity, our independence, our future." "We were going to take care of you," she shouted. "In a facility that costs $8,500 a month while you sold our house?" Gerald's voice cut like ice. "We saw the paperwork, Brittany. We heard the recordings. We know everything." Her face went from pale to grey. "Recordings?" Detective Chen held up a tablet showing screenshots. "We have 15 recorded conversations where you and Mr. Thornton discuss plans to obtain illegal power of attorney, forge documents, and systematically drain Mr. and Mrs. Harrison's accounts. We have video footage of you photographing confidential documents. We have testimony from the notary who forged the power of attorney signature." Brittany's knees actually buckled. Derek caught her, but he looked just as shaken. "The house isn't even in your name anymore," I added. "We transferred it to a living trust 2 weeks ago. You can't inherit it. You can't sell it. You have no claim to it whatsoever." I watched that information land. Derek's face went through a remarkable transformation. Shock to disbelief, to rage to despair, all in about 5 seconds. "You transferred the house?" His voice was barely a whisper. "And our savings," Gerald confirmed. "Everything's protected now. Even if you'd succeeded in getting power of attorney, you couldn't have touched it." It was the truth, but also a small lie. The trust protected everything after we were gone, but we still controlled it now. But they didn't need to know that detail. "You played us," Derek said slowly. "You let us think we were winning, and you were building a case the whole time." Gerald smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Funny how that works, isn't it? Underestimating people based on their age." The detectives led Derek and Brittany toward the door. Brittany turned back one more time, mascara running down her face. "I hate you," she said to me. "I hate both of you." The words should have hurt. Maybe once they would have. But I'd heard her say worse in those recorded conversations. This was just the first time she'd said it to my face. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said. "I love you, Brittany. I always will. But I won't let you destroy us." The door closed behind them. I heard the cars start, drive away, and then silence. Gerald and I stood in our living room, our home, and looked at each other. "It's done," he said. "Not quite." I pulled out my phone. Victoria had texted, "Hearing the news? Good work. Next step, formal eviction notice. I'll file it today." Because even if they made bail, even if the criminal charges somehow didn't stick, they weren't living in our house anymore. We'd tolerated them for 6 years. That ended now. Gerald came and stood beside me at the window. Outside, Mrs. Patterson walked by with her dog, oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded. "Do you think she'll ever forgive us?" he asked quietly. "I don't know. Maybe someday she'll understand we saved her from a bigger disaster. Or maybe she'll hate us forever." I leaned against him. "But Gerald, we did the right thing." "I know." My phone buzzed. "Gregory. Both in custody. Derek's not talking. Brittany's falling apart. Might flip on him if her lawyer's smart. We'll keep you updated." I showed Gerald the text. He nodded slowly. 42 years, I said. "We've been through job losses, health scares, money problems. But this is the hardest thing we've ever done. And the most necessary." We went to the kitchen. I made tea while Gerald sat at the table where, just days ago, Derek had tried to convince us to sign away our independence. "What now?" I asked, setting his cup down. Now we wait. Gregory said the DA's building charges, Victoria's filing eviction papers. We document everything and let the legal system work. He took my hand, and we remember that we're not victims anymore. We fought back. That afternoon, Victoria called. Eviction notice filed. They have 30 days to vacate. Given the criminal charges, the judge might expedite it. What if they refuse to leave? Then the sheriff removes them. But Linda, I don't think it'll come to that. Derek's smart enough to know when he's beaten. He'll take Brittany and run. Where will they go? Not your problem anymore. Her voice softened. I know this is hard. How are you holding up? I don't know yet. Ask me in a week. That night, Gerald and I sat on our porch swing, watching the sunset. The house felt different, emptier, but also lighter, like a weight had been lifted. They'll make bail tomorrow, probably, Gerald said. Derek has some savings, but they won't be able to stay here. Good. I meant it. I was done being afraid in my own home. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom? Brittany's voice, small and scared. They set bail at $50,000 each. Derek can't. We don't have that much. Can you? She wanted us to bail them out, after everything. No, Brittany, I said gently but firmly. We can't. You need to face the consequences of your choices. But Mom, I love you, but I won't enable this anymore. Call a bail bondsman, or call Derek's parents. But we're not helping you avoid responsibility. I hung up. Gerald looked at me, eyebrows raised. Bail? He asked. We're not paying it. He squeezed my hand. Good. We sat in silence as darkness fell, holding hands, watching fireflies start to emerge in the garden. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt safe in my own home. And that was worth everything.
Derek and Brittany made bail the next afternoon. Derek's parents, who I'd met exactly twice in 6 years, posted bond through a bail bondsman. Cost them $10,000 total in fees they'd never get back. I knew because Gregory called to tell me. They're out, but their passports have been flagged. Can't leave the country. And Gerald, the DA's office, wants to meet with you and Linda. They're building the case. When? 3 days from now. I'll be there too. Linda and I spent those 3 days preparing, going through every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. Victoria helped us organize everything into a binder, 247 pages of Derek and Brittany's attempts to steal our lives. The district attorney was a woman in her 50s named Catherine Walsh. Sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. She reminded me of Linda in some ways, warm on the surface, steel underneath. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, she said, shaking our hands. I've reviewed Detective Mills's report. This is one of the most comprehensive elder financial abuse cases I've seen. We sat in her office, me, Linda, Gregory, Victoria, and Catherine's assistant prosecutor. Walk me through it, Catherine said. Start from the beginning. I did. The 6 years of escalating abuse, the assault, the discovered power of attorney fraud, the unauthorized wire transfers totaling $12,000, the recordings where they discussed institutionalizing us, the forged signatures, all of it. Catherine took notes. The evidence is strong, very strong. We're charging Derek with 3 felony counts: attempted identity theft, wire fraud, and elder financial abuse. Each carries up to 5 years in prison. What about Brittany? Linda asked quietly. Right now, she's listed as a person of interest. If we can prove she knowingly participated in the fraud, she'll face charges too. But, Catherine paused, Detective Mills mentioned she's been cooperating. Might be willing to testify against Derek in exchange for immunity. I felt Linda's hand tighten on mine. Our daughter, turning on her husband to save herself. I didn't know if that made things better or worse. When do we go to trial? I asked. Probably 4 to 6 months. But there's another option. Catherine leaned forward. Derek's lawyer reached out this morning. He wants to negotiate a plea deal. What kind of deal? Derek pleads guilty to elder financial abuse and wire fraud. We drop the identity theft charge. He gets 3 years in prison, $75,000 in restitution to you, and permanent restraining order. He serves at least 18 months before parole consideration. 3 years, 18 months minimum. I looked at Linda. She nodded slightly. And Brittany? I asked. No charges if she testifies. She'd need to cooperate fully, admit her involvement, and agree to supervise probation for 2 years. I want to think about it, I said. Take your time. You have 3 days. We drove home in silence. When we got there, Derek's BMW was in the driveway. They were inside, in our house, standing in our living room like they had every right to be there. You can't evict us, Derek said immediately. My lawyer says we have 30 days and we're using every single one. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I smiled. Actually, Derek, we can and we will. But you're right. You have 30 days. So let me make this very clear. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app, hit record. This conversation is being recorded. Oregon is a one-party consent state. Everything you say can and will be used against you in court. His face went pale. For the next 30 days, I continued, you will live in the guest room upstairs. You will not touch anything in this house that doesn't belong to you. You will not speak to Linda unless absolutely necessary. You will not make any threats, implied or otherwise. Because every word, every action will be documented and added to the DA's case against you. You can't? Brittany started. Oh, I can, I interrupted, because this is my house. Legally, financially, irrevocably mine. The trust documents are filed. The eviction notice is served. Your bail conditions prohibit you from leaving the county. So you're stuck here, following my rules, until you leave for good. Derek's hands clenched into fists. I saw the rage in his eyes, the barely controlled violence. But he knew. One wrong move and he'd be back in jail, bail revoked. I want you to understand something, I said quietly. For 6 years, you treated us like we were stupid, weak, easy marks. You tried to steal our home, our money, our independence. You assaulted my wife. You forged my signature. You planned to institutionalize us and drain our accounts. We were trying to help. Don't. My voice could have cut glass. I have 15 recordings of you and Brittany discussing how to get rid of the old people. I have video footage of you going through our private documents. I have bank statements showing $12,000 in unauthorized transfers. I have testimony from the notary you paid to forge my signature. I stepped closer, not threatening, just present. You played a game you thought you'd win, I said. You lost. Badly. And now you get to sit in this house for the next 30 days, watching us live our lives, knowing that everything you tried to take is permanently out of your reach. Derek's jaw worked. No words came out. I turned to Brittany, our daughter, who looked so small and scared. As for you, I said, and my voice softened slightly, the DA offered you immunity if you testify. I suggest you take it, because loyalty to Derek isn't worth destroying your whole life. Tears streamed down her face. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... Yes, you did, I cut her off. You meant every word, every action, every scheme. You're only sorry because you got caught. But here's what I hope. I hope that someday, years from now, you'll actually be sorry for the right reasons. That you'll understand what you tried to do to your parents. And maybe, just maybe, you'll become the person we raised you to be. I walked past them to where Linda stood in the doorway to the kitchen. She took my hand. Dinner's at 6, she said calmly. You're welcome to cook for yourselves. Use the upstairs bathroom. And remember, cameras are everywhere. Every action is documented. We went upstairs to our bedroom, locked the door, and I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. That was, Linda started. Necessary, I finished. I was going to say amazing, but yes, also necessary. I pulled her close. 42 years of marriage, and she could still surprise me. They're going to make the next 30 days miserable, she said. Let them try. We've already won.
They tried. Oh, how they tried. The first week after their release was psychological warfare. Derek and Brittany would leave dishes in the sink, play music too loud at night, slam doors at odd hours. Small, petty acts of defiance designed to make us uncomfortable in our own home. Gerald documented everything. Every noise complaint, every mess, every violation of the house rules we'd established. He'd calmly photograph the evidence, timestamp it, send it to Victoria and Gregory. "Keep it up," he told Derek after the third consecutive night of 2 a.m. door slamming. "Every incident strengthens our case." The slamming stopped, but Brittany's emotional manipulation ramped up. She'd cry loudly in her room, making sure we could hear. She'd leave old family photos around the house, her as a child, smiling with us. Guilt trip attempts so obvious they were almost laughable. "Mum," she cornered me in the kitchen one morning. "Please, can we just talk? Really talk?" I looked at my daughter. Really looked. She'd lost weight. Dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted, desperate. Part of me wanted to comfort her. The mother in me wanted to hold her, tell her everything would be okay. But I'd learned. Finally learned. "Talk about what, Brittany? How you and Derek planned to steal our house? How you wanted to put us in a facility and drain our accounts? How you laughed when Derek pushed me?" Her face crumpled. I wasn't thinking clearly. Derek, he convinced me. Derek didn't make you do anything. You're 34 years old. You made choices. Adult choices with adult consequences. But you're my mother. Yes, and you're my daughter, which makes this hurt even more. I set down my coffee cup. But Brittany, love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean letting you destroy us to save yourself. So, you're just done with me? Forever? I thought about that. Really thought. "No," I said slowly. "Not forever. But for now? Yes. You need to face what you've done. Really face it, not just regret getting caught. You need to rebuild yourself into someone trustworthy. That takes time. Maybe years." "Years?" Her voice cracked. "You spent 6 years systematically betraying us. Did you think forgiveness would be instant?" She had no answer to that. That afternoon, Victoria called with news. Derek's lawyer accepted the plea deal. 3 years in prison, $75,000 restitution, permanent restraining order. Sentencing is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. And Brittany. She's agreed to testify and accepted immunity. Her lawyer's smart. He knows she can't beat the evidence. She'll get probation, mandatory counseling, and a suspended sentence that activates if she violates any terms. I don't know what I felt. Relief? Sadness? Both? "When will they leave the house?" I asked. "Derek has to surrender to custody the day after sentencing. Brittany can stay until the 30-day eviction period ends, but I suspect she'll leave with him." She was right. The next day, Brittany started packing. Slowly, methodically, like every box was a piece of her life ending. Gerald and I watched from the kitchen window as she loaded her car. Derek sat on the porch, smoking, a habit he'd hidden for years, staring at nothing. "He's broken?" Gerald observed. "Good," I said, surprising myself with the coldness in my voice. But it was true. I felt no pity for Derek. He'd calculated every move, planned every detail. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was systematic, sustained attempted theft and abuse. The night before the sentencing, Brittany knocked on our bedroom door. Gerald and I exchanged glances. He nodded. I opened it. Brittany stood there, red-eyed, clutching a piece of paper. "I wrote you a letter," she said, "about everything. I know you won't read it now, maybe not ever, but I needed to write it anyway." She held it out. I took it. "I'm leaving tomorrow," she continued. "After the sentencing. I can't stay in Portland. Derek's parents have a place in Nevada. They said I could stay there while I figure things out." "That's probably wise," I said neutrally. "Mum, I know I don't have the right to ask, but do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I looked at this woman who I'd carried for 9 months, raised for 34 years, loved through everything, who'd tried to destroy us. I don't know, Brittany. Ask me in a year, or 5 years, or 10. I softened slightly. But I hope so. I really hope so. She nodded, tears streaming. I love you. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do. I love you too. That's why this hurts so much. She left. I closed the door. Gerald wrapped his arms around me as I cried for the first time since this whole nightmare began. Not for what was, but for what could have been, should have been. The sentencing was brief. Derek pled guilty. The judge accepted the plea deal. 3 years in prison, to be served at the Oregon State Correctional Institution. $75,000 in restitution to be paid upon release. Permanent restraining order. He could never contact us again. Derek didn't look at us as they led him away in handcuffs. Brittany testified, voice shaking, admitting everything. Her role in the scheme, the planning, the deception. The judge was less harsh with her. 2 years probation, mandatory therapy, suspended sentence. You're a very lucky young woman, the judge told her. Your parents could have pushed for maximum charges. They showed you mercy. I suggest you don't waste it. Outside the courthouse, Brittany approached us one last time. She didn't try to hug us, just stood there, looking lost. Thank you, she said quietly, for not completely destroying me. We don't want to destroy you, Brittany, Gerald said. We want you to become better, to actually be better. I'm going to try. She paused. I'll be in Nevada. If you want to talk. We'll think about it, I said. Non-committal, honest. She got in her car and drove away. We watched until she disappeared. That evening, Gerald and I sat in our living room, our home, truly ours again. Is it over? I asked. Not quite. Derek still has to transfer the money, but legally, emotionally, yes, it's over. I leaned against him. I feel exhausted? That. But also lighter. Like we were carrying a weight we didn't realize was there until it was gone. He kissed my forehead. We did it. Together? Always together. My phone buzzed. Gregory. Just got word from the DA. Found another victim of Derek's. Woman in Seattle. Same scheme 3 years ago. She didn't press charges, but she'll testify if needed. Makes the case even stronger. I showed Gerald. He smiled grimly. There's the justice that was promised. Slow but sure. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun set through our windows. Tomorrow we'd start the real healing, the real rebuilding. But tonight, we'd simply exist in the peace we'd fought so hard to reclaim.
The weeks following Derek's sentencing brought a strange kind of peace. He was transferred to the Oregon State Correctional Institution within 3 days. Brittany moved to Nevada to stay with Derek's parents, people who suddenly understood what their son was capable of. But there was still work to be done. Gregory called me the morning after Derek's transfer. Gerald, I need you to come down to the station. Bring Linda. There's someone you should meet. We drove to the police department, wondering what this was about. Gregory met us in the lobby with a woman about Linda's age, late 50s, neatly dressed, nervous energy. Gerald, Linda Harrison, this is Patricia Morgan. Patricia, meet the Harrisons. Patricia shook our hands, her grip firm but trembling slightly. I heard about your case, she said. I'm the woman from Seattle, the one Derek tried this on 3 years ago. We sat in a conference room. Patricia told us her story. Derek had worked for her late husband's company. After her husband died, Derek convinced her she was losing her memory, needed help managing her finances. He'd attempted the same power of attorney scheme, got her to sign documents she didn't understand. My son caught it before Derek could do real damage, Patricia explained. We fired him, but I didn't press charges. I was grieving, confused. I just wanted it to go away. Her eyes welled up. If I'd reported him then, maybe he wouldn't have targeted you. Linda reached across the table, took Patricia's hand. You can't think that way. Derek made his choices. You were vulnerable and scared. But you fought back, Patricia said, looking at both of us with something like awe. You didn't just let him walk away. You made sure he faced consequences. We had each other, I said simply, and we got lucky. We caught it in time. Gregory pulled out paperwork. Patricia's agreed to testify. Her case adds weight to Derek's pattern of elder abuse. The DA thinks it might extend his sentence. After Patricia left, promising to keep in touch, Linda and I sat in the car for a moment. How many others do you think there were? She asked quietly. I don't know, but at least now he can't hurt anyone else for a few years. The restitution money started coming in installments. Derek's parents were paying it from his commissary account at the prison, $500 a month. It would take 12.5 years to reach $75,000, but we'd get every penny. Blood money, Linda called it. Justice money, I corrected. A reminder that actions have consequences. Meanwhile, we started reclaiming our house. The first thing I did was change every lock. Bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, everything. Then we painted Brittany's old room. The pale pink she'd chosen at 16 became a warm sage green. What will we use it for? Linda asked as we rolled paint onto the walls. Guest room, office, maybe both. I paused. Definitely not a shrine to what used to be. We donated most of Brittany's and Derek's abandoned belongings to charity. Clothes, books, trinkets they'd left behind in their rush to leave. The only thing I kept was a photo of Brittany from when she was 7, gap-toothed and laughing. That version of our daughter deserved to be remembered. 2 months after Derek's imprisonment, Victoria called with final news. The restitution agreement is finalized and filed with the court. Derek's parole is contingent on paying the full amount. If he ever gets out and doesn't pay, he goes back in. What are the chances he serves the full 3 years? I asked. With good behavior, he might get out in 18 months. But Gerald, he's flagged in the system now. Any future fraud attempts, any contact with you or Linda, any violation of the restraining order, it's automatic return to prison plus additional charges. Good. That evening, Linda and I had dinner on the patio. Just the two of us for the first time in what felt like forever. No tension. No walking on eggshells. No wondering what Derek or Brittany might do next. I got a letter today, Linda said quietly. From Brittany. I set down my fork. What did it say? She's in therapy. Twice a week, court mandated. Says her therapist is helping her understand what she did, why she did it. Linda looked at the envelope in her hand. She says Derek manipulated her, but she knows that doesn't excuse her choices. Do you believe her? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. She set the letter aside. But Gerald, she ended it by saying she loves us, and for the first time in 6 years, I think she might actually mean it. Love isn't enough, I said. Not anymore? She has to prove she's changed. Really changed. I know, and I told her that in my reply. You replied, Linda nodded. Not to reconcile, not to forgive, just to acknowledge her letter and tell her that if she wants any relationship with us in the future, she has to earn it. Years of consistent change, not words. I took her hand across the table. We're really free now, aren't we? We are. She smiled, and it reached her eyes for the first time in months. Our house, our money, our life, all protected. And us, I added, stronger than ever. That night, I went to my workshop and picked up my father's pocket watch, the one I'd set on the table the night I called 911. I'd been working on it for 3 years, taking it apart and reassembling it piece by careful piece. Now, finally, it was finished. Every gear aligned, every spring calibrated. I wound it, held it to my ear, and heard the steady tick, tick, tick of perfect mechanical precision. Time had been my weapon and my ally. Patience, strategy, the long game. I brought it upstairs to show Linda. She was in bed reading, and she looked up when I entered. It works? She asked. Perfectly. I set it on the nightstand. 3 years to restore it. Just like it took 3 years to deal with Derek and Brittany. She laughed. Except the watch is worth keeping. True? I got into bed beside her. You know what I realized today? We won. Not just legally or financially. We won our dignity back, our peace, our home. We won ourselves back, Linda corrected. The people we were before, they tried to take it all. I kissed her forehead. Better people, I think. Stronger. Definitely stronger. The next morning I woke to sunshine streaming through our windows, and the smell of Linda's coffee brewing. I could hear her humming in the kitchen, something she hadn't done in years. I got up, went downstairs, and found her tending her roses through the window while the coffee percolated. "Morning," I said, wrapping my arms around her from behind. "Morning." She leaned back against me. "Look at the peace roses. They're blooming like crazy this year." Appropriate name. I thought so too. We stood there watching the garden wake up, and I thought about everything we'd been through. The betrayal, the fight, the victory. "No regrets?" I asked. "None," Linda said firmly. "We did what we had to do. We protected ourselves. We got justice. And we're still standing." "Still standing," I agreed. "Together."
The final chapter of our ordeal came on a warm afternoon in mid-August. Gerald and I were in the garden, him trimming hedges, me deadheading roses, when Victoria's car pulled into our driveway. She got out, carrying a folder and a bottle of wine. "Thought you might want to celebrate," she called. We went inside. Victoria spread documents across our dining room table, the same table where Derek had pushed me, where this whole nightmare had started. "It's all done," she said. "Derek's in prison. Brittany's in Nevada on probation. The house is protected in perpetuity through the trust. The restitution agreement is filed and ironclad. The restraining orders are permanent." She looked at us with satisfaction. "You're free. Completely, legally, finally free." Gerald poured the wine. We clinked glasses. "To justice," Victoria said. "To survival," Gerald added. "To us," I finished. After Victoria left, Gerald and I sat on our porch swing. The house felt different now, lighter, like it could finally breathe again. "Do you think we'll ever hear from Brittany?" Gerald asked. I thought about her letters. 3 so far, all from Nevada, each one a little more self-aware than the last. Maybe, someday, when she's actually changed, not just sorry she got caught. And if she never changes? Then we live our lives without her. It'll hurt. It'll always hurt. But we'll survive. I took his hand. "We survived this, Gerald. We can survive anything." He squeezed my fingers. 42 years. Through job losses and money troubles and health scares. Through Derek and Brittany. Through all of it. "Through all of it," I echoed. That evening, as the sun set, I made dinner in our kitchen. Gerald set the table for 2. We ate slowly, talking about ordinary things. The book he was reading, the tomatoes that were finally ripening, plans to visit the coast next month. Normal life. Our life. Protected and preserved. After dinner, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Harrison?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Sarah Chen from the District Attorney's Office. I wanted to let you know. We found a 3rd victim of Derek Thornton's schemes, a man in Eugene. Same pattern. He's willing to testify." 3 victims. 3 families Derek had tried to destroy. "Thank you for telling us," I said. "There's more. With the additional testimony, the DA is filing to extend Derek's sentence. He could serve the full 5 years now. Possibly more." I thanked her and hung up, told Gerald. "Good," he said simply. "He deserves every day of it." The next morning, I woke early. Gerald was still sleeping, his face peaceful in the dawn light. I got up quietly, made coffee, went out to my garden. My roses were in full bloom, red, pink, white, yellow. 12 varieties, each one carefully tended. I'd planted them over years, pruned them through seasons, protected them from frost and disease. Just like I'd protected this marriage, this home, this life. Gerald found me there an hour later, my hands in the soil, working compost around the roots. "Morning, gardener," he said, handing me fresh coffee. "Morning, husband." We stood together, looking at what we'd built. Not just the garden, but everything. this house, this partnership, this victory. I was thinking, Gerald said, about what we should do with Brittany's room, the one we painted green. And? What if we turned it into a reading room? Big comfortable chairs, bookshelves, a place just for us. I smiled. I'd like that. A room that's about our future, not our past. Exactly. We spent that day transforming the space, moved in the wingback chairs from the living room, built bookshelves along one wall, hung art we'd collected over 40 years of marriage. By evening, it was perfect. Our space, our sanctuary. Gerald pulled me into the middle of the room. No music, but we swayed together anyway. Remember when we met? He asked. You were studying at the library. I dropped my calculator. You did it on purpose, I accused, laughing. Guilty. But it worked. He kissed my forehead. Best decision I ever made. Second best, I corrected. Best was calling 911 that night. Fair point. We stood there, holding each other, in a room that used to belong to betrayal, but now belonged to us. A week later, I got a final letter from Brittany, longer than the others, more honest. She wrote about her therapy sessions, about recognizing how Derek had isolated her from us, convinced her we were obstacles, not parents, about the moment in court when she'd testified against him and realized she'd been as much his victim as his accomplice. But being his victim doesn't erase what I did to you, she wrote. I chose to believe his lies because they justified my greed. I chose to hurt you. I chose to side with him when he pushed you. Those were my choices. I own them. She ended with this. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to try to earn it back. But I want you to know. I'm working every day to become someone who would deserve parents like you. It might take years. It might take forever. But I'm trying. I showed Gerald. We read it together on the porch swing. What do you think? He asked. I think maybe there's hope. Not now, not for a long time, but maybe eventually. Hope is enough for now, Gerald said. The leaves were starting to turn colours, fall coming to Portland, the air getting crisp. Gerald went to his workshop. I tended my garden. We lived our lives, protected, safe, together. One evening, as we sat watching fireflies emerge in the twilight, my phone rang. Victoria. Just wanted you to know, she said. Derek's appeal was denied. He's serving the full sentence. And Gregory told me they're using your case as a training example for elder abuse investigations. You two helped create a blueprint for protecting other families. After I hung up, I told Gerald. He smiled that quiet smile of his. We did it, I said. We really did it. We did, he agreed. Together, like everything else. I leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of 42 years. I love you, Gerald Harrison. I love you too, Linda Harrison. The fireflies danced, the roses bloomed, our house stood strong. We'd fought for our home, our dignity, our future, and we'd won. Not because we were young or strong or powerful, but because we were partners, a team, two people who'd built a life together and refused to let anyone tear it down. That night, lying in bed, I thought about everything we'd survived, and I realized this wasn't just about winning against Derek and Brittany. It was about proving to ourselves that we were still the people we'd always been, still strong, still capable, still worth fighting for. Gerald? I whispered in the darkness. Thank you for being my partner through all of this. Always, he said, for 42 years and counting. I fell asleep, holding his hand, in our home, in our bed, in the life we'd reclaimed. Justice isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, persistent. The slow accumulation of small victories until the battle is won. Derek was in prison. Brittany was in therapy. Our house was protected. Our savings were safe. Our dignity was restored. And Gerald and I? We were free. Truly, completely free. Together, like we'd always been, like we'd always be. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.